Last year, we bought right at 50 properties, which was a huge milestone for us in one calendar year. Most of the deals that we're closing, we're buying right now in the $30,000, $40,000 range. ARV, we're looking at around $200,000 to $250,000. Probably 70% of the business is doing fix and flips. That's historically what the models looked like.
Welcome to Dirty Deeds. My name is Logan Fullmer. I've got a special guest for you today, and we're guest sitting in somebody else's studio, so you probably don't recognize it, but it's the same people, a different place. Since 2018, Matt and one of his best friends have been doing real estate, but they're not doing it how you think. Matt, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
No doubt. So tell me about what y'all's business looks like right now.
Right now is very different than it's been kind of the previous 6 years. So, last year we bought right at 50 properties, which was a huge milestone for us in one calendar year. So it's busy. We've had to kind of staff up to handle the volume. We've had to figure out the financial side of the business. So it's busy, but we're running a tight ship, and it's kind of been a gradual process getting to this point. So it's been cool.
What's y'all's typical deal looks like now?
Typical deal, size-wise, we're in the market that we're in.
Georgia.
North Georgia, kind of the northeastern portion of Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. Most of the deals that we're closing, we're buying right now in the $30,000, $40,000 range. ARV, we're looking at around $200,000 to $250,000. So we're buying frequently at 20%.
So you said ARV, that means you're remodeling these?
We are. So that probably 70% of the business is doing fix and flips. That's historically what the models looked like. So I say fix and flips, but a lot of it we're stuffing into a rental portfolio right now. So last year, if it consisted of 50 properties, probably 35 of those went into the portfolio, and then really 15 were flips. So we kind of try to play a bit of a slower market in our area. Let's avoid putting stuff on the MLS, doing a traditional flip. We'll load up the portfolio, loaded with equity, but we're still rehabbing almost everything that we're touching right now.
Okay, so you've changed how you're buying them. You're now able to buy them at much better discounts,
Sure.
Which lowers your basis, and you're still remodeling. So you take a crummy product into a better product, and you're building a better quality portfolio.
Bingo. Yep, absolutely.
How did you originally acquire properties? What was early days? How'd you find these things?
Man, the early days was 2018, 2019. We were buying leads from other websites. Well, I guess the very beginning of the business, we started out with buy some leads from some third party guys, and they were 70% crap, right? So you're kind of weeding through to find the best that you can. So then we bought a franchise with WeBuyHouses.com.
Oh, how'd that work?
So that was so you kind of buy into a support group, if you will. You've got back-end web support. You've got marketing support. So for us, it was easy. We just set a marketing budget, throw a few bucks at it. And we've got a website that they put together for us, and we start getting leads flowing into us. So that was to start out in the business as we were just learning things. That made it easy, right? You've got decent quality leads coming in. So when you go on a buy appointment, you've got a pretty good success rate of this is distressed. There's something going on in their life where they need to sell relatively quickly. So that was kind of the early days, all on the web. And then we found kind of 2 years into that, we were pretty successful closing 1 out of 10 leads, which was very good at that point.
And were you remodeling them at that point?
We were. Every now and then you're sprinkling a wholesale deal or whatever, but our model's typically been close on it, rehab it, sling it on the MLS. That's typically what it's looked like. And then that sort of evolved over time. As we're getting better at buying, we're finding, damn, we're not closing as many. We're getting better, lead quality's dropping. So then we kind of switched methods to direct mail. And we started playing in that ballpark, and it was mildly successful at first. And then we kind of honed in what a mailer needs to look like.
So you improved the mailer, not anything else about the process?
Not anything else about the process. We improved the mailers. Now we're getting better quality
What did they look
data.
like originally? And then what did your better performing one look like? What was the difference?
Well, the biggest difference is we started putting an offer on the mailer. which is a hard thing
Oh.
to do.
How'd you formulate your offer?
Well, so you've got all these data sources coming in. So you're pulling data from Zillow, from Realtor.com, from the tax assessor. And then you kind of mix all that together in a dish and it spits out an offer that ends up being something like 75% of the retail value of the property.
Got it.
So if someone bites on that, we already know we've got them at a bit of a discount, right? We know that we're dealing with someone who doesn't reside at the property. So it's not owner occupied.
Because you're originally targeting non-owner occupied.
Bingo.
Vacant.
So we're targeting non-owner occupied
not vacant, just non-owner occupied.
Exactly. So typically what we're finding, and they've also owned it for, say, more than 10 years.
So they got equity.
They don't live there. They got equity. By now, they've been a landlord for 10 years, and they are tired
Unless they're good at it, they're
it.
done.
They are tired of it, man. So we've got dudes calling us, got a tenant, they don't pay, they've destroyed my house. I want you to buy it, but I got to leave the tenant in there. So then we found ourselves in this business where it's like, we're inheriting tenants. They're like, here's the deal. I'm going to let it go at damn near whatever price you want, but you got to take the tenant. I'm not
Because they're like, I
don't
don't want you to toss them out. I don't like that. I care about them.
That or they're fearful of the tenant. They don't really know what that's going to look like if they go serve the tenant to get them out of there. So we start inheriting all these tenants, and then my strategy, Jacob's strategy, we go sit down with the tenant. Listen, I know the other guy sucked. I'm a new dude. I'm going to help you get out of here. Let's help you find your next step. And we try to kind of see them out
Just
of the
don't
property.
be a shithead. Just be a nice guy and be
Just
okay
be
with
a
it.
decent dude. And that's what we
Weird how
found
that works.
It is weird. And what I found is people who are shitheads are way better at it than me.
Oh,
Like at my core, I'm just a pretty nice dude.
yeah.
So if I go try to play hardball, that's just not who I am. I'm going to kind of kill him with kindness. I'm going to see him through that process.
Yeah.
Someone who is angry at the world, they're going to be way better at that than me. So just kind of be true to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then you go see them through. And typically within a couple months, we've got them out of the property and they don't hate us. And then we're sitting in a super strong equity position. We sling a rehab on the property, and then we'll stuff it into a portfolio or sling it out on the MLS.
So self-funding this, borrowing some money, how's that? Because a lot of people get into this business early on, or before they get into it, they're intimidated. I want to buy stuff and flip it. I want to do wholesale deals, whatever. I got no money. How do I do this? And most people that get into this are working hard. They're not doing it because they're already rich.
Sure.
They're trying to get there. So how do you finance?
So kind of the early days of the business, when Jacob and I started together, we both had regular jobs, kind of killing it in corporate, had very successful corporate jobs. So we didn't really need the money from the business, which was helpful so that we could self-fund kind of early deals. So it's always been kind of a combination of personal money mixed in with some private money from some people that we know. As volumes ramped up, we've started to bring in a little bit of institutional money, and then we've realized, like, that's real. I really like private personal money. So what we found is when we look at our business collectively, if we buy well and we're in a super strong equity position, we know we're safe. We're hiring our own staff. We're not subcontracting all this stuff out, so we can keep our cost basis low. It's a lot easier to self-fund that type of model.
That's a good point.
So
You're also planning a $30,000 price point entry. You got some rehab, but you're not in like California where you have to buy the property for $400,000 or $500,000 and spend hundreds of thousands remodel. That's $1 million deal.
It is. And, for us, $1 million can span across, that can handle 8 properties for us. You know what I mean? So a dollar goes a long way following kind of the model and the market that we're in.
A lot of people say, well, it's not worth my time to do those. I'll just go do one big one. Mm-hmm. Something they forget to value is the risk. When you have 8 properties for $1 million or one property for $1 million, if that one property gets stuck, you're stuck. If you have 8 properties and 1 or 2 are messed up, or you have a problem and you can't sell them or whatever, you can still sell others in pieces and bring in dollars. So it's a completely different exposure.
It completely different. And over the last couple of years, we've been in some bigger projects. Like we're exiting one right now that we've got right at $600,000 tied up in. And we really start to feel that. We're kind of regular dudes, 2 guys running this operation. We've got staff and all the support that we need. But $600,000, that ties up a pretty high percentage of the capital that we have available, you know.
So you can do a $600,000 deal. You're probably in it for $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be 4, 5, or 6 other deals.
Sure.
Was that deal worth it? Considering that?
So one of the kind of $600,000 deals, that was a bit unique. This is a really kind of extravagant, it's a cool property, which is really not our bread and butter. You know, we've been intentional about staying in the affordable housing realm. That feels safe. We know that. There's a ton of that right in our backyard. This property, huge 4,500 square foot house, very extravagant, kind of cool layout, got a pool sitting on 5.2 acres, but it had this cool industrial building on the property. So I looked at it, I'm like, I don't care about the house. I want that building. I just want that building for us. So I'm kind of looking at it, talked to a couple other guys who have done some subdivides, and I'm like, well, let's buy this. I'm going to subdivide the land. This county's going to make us put 1.5 acres with that building. We're going to subdivide that off. We'll keep that, and then we can exit the house for what we've got in the whole deal, which is literally.
So you got yourself a free shop.
We got a free shop.
Boom.
And literally we close on that deal. So the house is actually being rehabbed. The people who were buying it, they're getting a loan on the property. It's mildly distressed. It needs some work. So they're rehabbing the house while under contract. So we still own it.
Oh, yeah.
They're rehabbing it so that they can go secure
There's
a loan.
a loan style like that, right? Or was it special contract or was it like a loan style?
So it's a special contract, basically just with the special steps laying out the terms of that agreement.
Oh.
So there's virtually the worst thing that can happen is that they can't secure the loan, and then we got to keep the house, but it's got a fresh rehab on it that they funded.
Yeah, that's low risk for you. You're letting them do it. Those people are going to close. They're going to find any way they can to close. As long as you do quality work, you're okay.
They're going to close on it. So all of that, we'll be able to exit that for about what we've got in it, but we've got a free shop and 1.5 acres in a really desirable county in our area.
Wow, that's a good one. All right, so let's back up for a little bit. So you talked about how you guys got into Home Investors franchise, the We Buy Ugly Houses.
Yep.
Then you say, let's just do some of our own marketing, see how that works. That started working a little bit better. How much has the model changed at that point? What's happening like right after that relative to today?
So really, we've kept it very consistent since those early days. I mean, one thing about Jacob and I and the way that we've set the business up is we're very steady Eddie. We find something that works, we stick to it, throw a little more marketing dollars at it, and then just incrementally grow. So we were talking to a dude yesterday or last week who he's doing 10 times the volume of what we are. And he's like, I don't like the word scale. I like to grow responsibly. And that kind of hit home with us because we're like, well, that's what, we didn't know we were doing that, but that's sort of what we've done over the last 6 years or so, is every year we've kind of doubled the volume of the previous year. Yeah. And that's landed us to where we were in 2025, which has been a strong place to be at.
So does 2026 double?
I don't know that 2026 will double. So we're trying to take
the bigger you get, the harder it is to double.
And that's what we found. And then you've got more and more complexities and moving parts in the business. It requires more staff. It requires more overhead. It requires more meetings. It requires more oversight. And then half of those problems that you have staff handling still filters down to you.
Well, it depends. Your margin will shrink. As a business grows, your margin will shrink. That's how they all work, But the other thing is it becomes more important to have the right people and the right training because if you don't, it will filter to you. So I'm over here on a podcast right now doing this, but our office is running proficiently. Like I get about 2 or 3 questions a week about strategic stuff or legal stuff on a deal. Otherwise, I don't even sign the HUDs. Beautiful. I literally don't even know what's happening. And we go through like recap meetings, so I get caught up, and this is my model. I developed it and financed it.
Yeah.
But like it's running. But that requires very high-level operators. So instead of me hiring a mid-level manager, I brought in someone who's going to be a partner, develop that partner, let them have half of that company, and let them hire their people, help train them, help them interview them, help them figure it all out, do a finance and accounting. And after 2 or 3 years of that like close one-on-one, they're off.
How about that? That's cool, man.
But to me, that's as responsible as you can get. Sure. But that means a lot of folks want to spend less time and money hiring people, training people, and making sure they're the right people, or they just simply say, well, that person's good enough. No, I don't want someone that's good enough. I want someone that's better. I want someone who's badass, like the highest quality, highest IQ, the hardest working person I can get.
Sure.
That's who I need. People just settle for minimum.
Sure.
And in the early days we did, and I was right in the middle of everything.
Yeah. And that's
so you
good
may consider
insight.
those things.
Well, kind of going back, 18 months from today, sort of what led up to this.
Yeah.
Either me or Jacob discovered you on Facebook or Instagram.
You're doom scrolling. Like, what's this moron talking about?
And I'm just like, well, hold on. This dude, there's a million real estate gurus out there, right? And I'm like, there's something different just about you overall and your approach to the business. So that led to, and we went to Austin February of 25, I think it was. Went to one
right about a year
events,
ago.
Right at about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we're just like, man, the way this dude's delivering the information. And then I interacted with Shelly.
Yep.
Is she still on your team?
Yeah.
And she was awesome. Been interacting with Julie, kind of preparing for this. She's awesome. So I've been able to see your model a bit just from like a personnel standpoint, right? Which has been cool to see the caliber folks that you're talking about. Like, dude, last night at 9:03 p.m., I'm texting with Julie, going over some stuff for this. I fire a text at 5 a.m. She's back with me at 6 a.m. You can't train that, right?
You have to pay well, very well, and you have to find people that really care, and you have to find people that have a high enough IQ.
There you go.
If you can get those three, it's attitude, aptitude, determination, like those kind of things. If you can get those,
sure.
I have to train those people a lot less.
Beautiful. All
right, so let's go back. Selfishly, I want to go back to this piece because we work to the piece where you discover like the stuff we're yapping about on the internet because we work hard to put the right message out and just useful information up front instead of, hey, I got something to sell you. It's let's get a lot of good info out, and if we can work together, good. If we can't, I still feel good that I got a lot of the right information out.
Sure.
So you find some talking head on the internet, and what happens? You're like, let's look at this.
Well, with what you guys are talking about with messy title stuff, I hadn't heard a whole lot about that, right? Everyone understands you've got a physically distressed structure.
Yeah.
We all know about that, right?
Yeah.
But we start talking
needs repairs.
Needs repairs, right? But we start talking distressed title, and I'm like, well, hell, I've faced a lot of that, and I've run from it before.
Yeah.
So you start hearing about, okay, well, you can actually chip away at these problems, and shortly after attending your training, we actually ran into 2 deals where it was just a one-day event, right? But you kind of jam-pack it with information.
You know why this happened? Before you're thinking about going to buy that white truck, you don't know how many white trucks there are out there.
Right.
The moment you start looking at them, every truck you see is a white truck. 50% of them, oh my God. You ignore those, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, they're everywhere.
Right. Well, you're spot on. So I hear about, all right, so we don't know who the hell owns this property. We've got heirs that may or may not be involved. Well, right around this time, a wholesaler brings me a deal. Old 1800 style house.
Wow.
On 19 acres. So I start doing some research online, and I'm like, well, there's a parcel of land adjacent to this that's another 7 acres that's still in this dead dude's name. Maybe this should have been part of the estate that was passed down to this guy's son who's working with this wholesaler who's talking to me. So I start piecing this together, thinking, well, these guys think they're going to sell me a house on 19 acres. I think I can get a house on 26 acres. So I call my attorney. The attorney's like, I think that was supposed to have been conveyed to the estate, which went to this dead dude's son. He's like, I think we can do an affidavit of descent, put that 7 acres in this dude's name, and then sling that to you guys at closing as well.
Do these stories sound crazy? They are. I do have a real estate program that teaches people how to do it. It's a coaching program. I've spent years perfecting how to train people to get to these deals the quickest for the least amount of expense and the most profitable way they possibly can. This is how I built my business of 25 people over the last 10 years, and I'm now implementing it into a program for folks that are either high-performing W-2s or already in the real estate business and just need to turn it up a notch. That's what I can do. So look, I've got a video. There's a link down below in the comment here. You owe it to yourself. Just go check it out. If it's for you, great. If it's not, move on to the next video. But I think you owe it to yourself, especially after hearing what's happened for these folks.
Now that's the shortened version, right? It took 2 months to piece all that together.
What cities would this be in? You said northern Georgia, but like what would be your cities?
This was Cornelia, so the city of Habersham County.
How big are these cities? Because I'm not familiar. I'm very familiar with Atlanta now. We're there, but
Sure. I mean, we're talking 2 to 8,000 being the population.
these are small towns.
Rural, dude. Rural. So what we found in the early days, to kind of back up like geographically to where we were focused.
Hold on, wait. Let me go back to that deal. But I was curious because we were talking about this deal. I'm like hearing you use different states have different words for the same thing. You said affidavit of descent instead of affidavit of heirship or small estate affidavit or whatever. All right, so you go back and you talk to the attorney. He says we can do an affidavit of heirship to close the break in the title chain and vest these people in title like publicly of record.
Yep.
And then do you just close?
And then we just closed. So
how much did you add? How much equity did you add to your deal by dragging that one in?
I mean, 125,000 probably. So it was like you just
was that worth your $500 ticket? Come on,
absolutely. I don't remember what it cost, but it was worth that and the flight.
Yeah.
And so then, kind of that story gets even crazier. So we close on it, don't touch the property, list it back for sale again. Well, we find a buyer for it. They're running that through their title search, and they discover that there were 2 deeds peeling off 4 acres of the original 19 that I knew I was getting. Well, I've got title insurance.
I was about to say, did you buy with or without title? Okay.
Bought it with title insurance, so I go run that through title insurance. They cut me a check for $110,000, and I've got.
How did they determine the value of the 4 acres of the 19?
So I just provided land comps to them to build that case there. And it was such a clear miss on their part that they really didn't fight it. They had it for 3 weeks, and they said, let us know where.
Oh, wow, that's quick. They usually argue, fight, make you low offer, file a lawsuit, blah, blah, blah.
We avoided all. I think it was just such a clear break there on their part. So that was a cool deal. It would have happened, right? I'm not here to like sell you, of course, but that wouldn't have happened had we not attended that event, just to understand that there's a lot of paths forward,
dude,
even with messy title stuff.
I tell people a lot of times, they say, well, my flipping business works. My wholesaling business works. Why do I need to come do this? I don't want a bright, shiny object. I don't want to change it. And you probably just did a better job of explaining that than anybody else. And while I make some money along the way bringing people through this stuff, I look at it and say, dude, are you kidding? You're already running a good business. You're already in the deal flow. If you can add $100,000 into one of your deals or pick up 5 acres or 14 acres, we were going to contract one property with one house this last month. It turned into 3.
Wow.
And the seller said, same sales price. This is what we agreed to. And like, we need to add these in. We had a similar situation. We now cross-check because it happens way more than you think.
That's too cool.
Dude, I'm thinking almost every real estate operator needs exposure to that for reasons like that. But, you know.
Well, what we found is that we've got to be opportunistic in this business. You know, you've got leads coming in, you've got all these opportunities, and not every lead is a good lead. Some models or some people say, well, make every lead a deal. We don't want to do that. Why
don't you want to do that?
Well, you've got to have enough business acumen and you know, IQ and EQ to say, is this the best use of my time? You got to define the value of your time and say, what does my gut and logic tell me I need to do here? You know, at the end of the day, leads are relatively inexpensive. Don't tie up 3 months' time pursuing something that's probably not.
That's the expensive part, the time.
Bingo.
It specifically reminds me in our early days, I'd get a lead in. We were doing a bunch of SEO, stuff like that. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was trying that stuff for a while. And a lead would come in and it would just be a listing. So they wanted so much and all this. And I would call a realtor friend and get 1% of that. And then this deal at wholesale and this deal I'd take down.
Right.
And I remember stepping back saying, dude, why am I doing all this? Why don't I just focus on these? And those are ways to bring our revenue up by saying no so much more.
Yeah. And so we say no a lot.
How did y'all determine that? Was that just a natural instinct or did you have to go through some stuff to like get there?
Well, I think
because a lot of people struggle with that. They're like, I want to monetize everything. I'm like, you're an expert in nothing, dude.
Right. And so we lived all through, you know, you're selling a lead for $200 to a realtor at some point. And you realize, you know, ultimately we kind of built like a homegrown CRM dashboard where we started kind of analyzing like, what does profitability look like per deal? And when you start looking at that, you see all of these outliers. You're like, I'm busting my ass over here for $1,000.
Your dollar per hour. What's your
Right.
dollar per hour on this?
Come on, you know. But we still want to be opportunistic. So we want to be able to handle stuff that's distressed title. We want to handle distressed condition. And another side effect of what we do buying single family homes is a couple of years ago, we realized like we're acquiring all these lots. It's like 1 in every 20 houses, we're getting the house and a lot next door. Everyone bought a lot next door and never did anything with it. Well, they're conveying that to us as well.
And they get no more money for a 2 acre lot than they do for a 1 acre lot when you buy a house. It just works like that. I don't know why. Unless it's super premium value land. Otherwise, no.
And that's what I'm finding is I might command another $3,000 or $5,000 on the listing. So we started holding all these lots. Well, then we're like, well, one of our good buddies is a builder. Let's have him sling a house up right here and see how that goes. So we'll fund that. He builds the house. We split profit when it sells. So we want to be in position to do that as well. We just bought a house last week, had a lot next door. So we met the builder out there and we're thinking through, all right, we'll keep this. So we own there's 3 houses here, or one house, lot in the middle. The houses on each end are going to be rentals.
Okay.
But we're kind of looking at this land saying, what's the highest and the best use of this land here? Well, the conclusion we came to, we're going to bulldoze one house and we'll sling up a 6-plex here. So we're kind of piecing together over time that there's a lot of utility in understanding what you've got. Don't run from messy title. Don't run from messy condition. Don't sell lots for free with a house, you know, so.
You know, that's actually a good topic to talk about. People don't understand it. My studio manager, when I was walking in the studio yesterday, he said they've got 3 properties on the market. I was like, I thought you just bought 2. He goes, he's JVing with one of the guys in my office, Ryan. He goes, well, yeah, but one of them was lot 1 and 2 or whatever, something like that. And he said, we actually didn't even catch it. We literally did this like crazy in the early days. And he goes, we didn't even catch it. We were getting ready to list it. Ryan was looking at a legal description. He goes, no. Call the realtor. Tell them to do 2 separate listings instead of, $25,000 lot that's slightly bigger sells for 30. She's like, low. It's 20,000 and 20,000 now. So you pick up way more money. I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And the very first time that happened to me was downtown San Antonio on Essex Street, 600 block. I'll never forget. There were 3 lots. There's a lot 5, 6, and 7 or something. There's one big old house in the middle. It took up 1 lot and a little bit of the sides. And I remember they're selling it for $70,000. They said, that's what houses sell for there. And I looked at lots and I'm like, okay, I'll get it. And I looked at the legal description and thought, they're building new houses here. And it was 3 different lots. I was able to scrape the house, buy it for $60,000, which is what the house is worth, scrape the house for another $5,000 or $8,000 and sell it for $150,000 because those lots would sell for $50,000 a piece.
I love it.
I was like, so now that caused us to look at legal description every time.
Yeah.
But y'all clearly, like, now you look at every single legal description.
Every single legal description. I mean, you got to understand what you've got. Yeah. And in the early days, we're just like fix and flip. And that was what we knew at the time. And then as we absorb more information over the years, we kind of realize, well, there's these other avenues to maximize profitability.
You're right. So what's your plan for 2026? Like, you've had a lot happen. Now you guys are building houses. You got a lot portfolio. You figure out how to get these deals a heck of a lot better, adding margin along the way. Where do you go?
2026 is, hopefully it won't be a double year. Because we're not quite ready for that. So what we've realized with the growth to the point we've gotten to is it was time to involve systems, right? We had I mentioned a homegrown CRM. Well, it's time to sort of let's get something real and professional here. So we've got CRMs in place to manage our flips. We've got CRM in place now to manage the rental portfolio. We need to kind of refine the staff that we've got. So to continue to kind of grow responsibly, right, we want to make sure that we've got a healthy engine here that can continue to grow in a sustainable fashion. So 2026 is going to kind of be like a refining year where we make sure we've got the systems and we've got the people in place. And we'll probably grow as well with the number of deals because that's just who we are and how we push ourselves.
Does that mean you spend more money on marketing, or does that mean you look for more deals?
That's a good question.
Because it doesn't grow naturally.
It doesn't grow naturally, so it's probably going to be both. So growing that marketing budget was hard for us at first because we've always been like, keep overhead low, just go be a really good buyer, go be a really good operator, and you'll keep profitability up. But we're kind of learning that by letting go of more and more marketing dollars, growth happens.
Weird,
right? And it's kind of like that, but as you're seeing those thousands go away, we have to kind of become conditioned to that.
That's tough as a business owner. I look at in my businesses even specific. As you start to build revenue, you want to grow by doing more deals.
Sure.
But you also say, I need key people. So like recently I've hired 2 people that are much higher paid category of people. And I realize I'm taking profit from 2026 or 2025 that's sitting in the checking account. Mm-hmm. And I'm now going to commit to a higher salary for 2 people each month for these 2 really key roles.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to see the revenue change for, it depends. One of them is a very high level role. So I won't notice revenue change for 6 months on that one. So those are investments that people forget. I want to do more deals. I'm going to spend more in marketing. You're going to spend more in marketing, but you're going to have more people. You're going to do things a little bit differently. So there's a much bigger investment in that side before the actual growth starts to happen. And as you get bigger and track better, you start to actually come to those conclusions along the way instead of just, in the past, it's like we could only handle 2 deals a month.
Yeah.
Now we can handle 4 deals a month. Well, at some point now it's more intentional and requires more to cause.
Mm-hmm. Well, to the point you made earlier, getting the right people in place. As we exited like the COVID time frame, we kind of had a good little system going and we're making money and we had some buddies in like Salt Lake City and Oklahoma, South Georgia, North Florida. Everyone's kind of like, well, why don't we do some stuff together? We'll do some joint venture stuff. So we kind of built this model where we got some students kind of all spread across the U.S. and we'll start doing deals everywhere.
How'd that go?
It was okay at first, and man, I woke up one day, called Jacob. I'm like, dude, we've got millions of dollars out, spread all across the U.S., being run by deals that got by dudes that got no skin in the game. I'm like, this is a scary model to have. Right after that, we've got a house under contract to sell in downtown Oklahoma City. Find out we got foundation issues during due diligence to sell. Me and Jacob are booking a flight to fly out the next morning to try to salvage this deal. And we kind of realized, like, hold on. Why are we going 800 miles away to get a deal when our backyard is loaded with it? So it took us about a year to undo that. We brought it all back home. Jacob and I got back in those buying roles. And then everything kind of became like this smooth engine.
I'm gonna tell the editors to reorganize this podcast and say it in the very beginning. I've heard people in the last 10 years talk about going national, do all this. People kept asking me, why don't you leave Bexar County? And I'm like, dude, I'm making millions and millions of dollars here and I'm not out of room. We ended up starting to go out because we had very well qualified operators that we worked with and trained and that we could trust in these other markets. So we started doing those deals.
Yeah.
But without that piece, forget about it. At this point, we're in Texas, across the state, and 6 or 7 other states.
But you're positioned to handle that now, right?
Because we have the very qualified people there and the finances have been built and all that stuff. But just like, I'm so glad you said that. We stayed in Texas for the last 10 years, probably 7 of those years. Yeah. We stayed inside Texas. There is no reason to go outside of your backyard until you are sure you have either just scraped that market dry, which, let's face it, if New Western has 6 offices in Texas, they haven't scraped the market dry, my ass ain't scraping it dry, neither you.
Right, absolutely.
So there's a great call, a great case to operate in that tight area that you understand, you know the rules, you have resources there, you got attorneys, you got title companies. You can get there in 30 or 40 minutes if you really need to.
And that's the thing is you've got all the resources, you know everyone. I mean, and when you're jam-packed in a geography with all the resources, and in our case, this is our backyard. We grew up here. We know everybody.
Oh, that's huge. Beat that market to death before you think about crossing the state line.
Absolutely. A few years ago, we turned on some marketing in, I thought we were doing Jefferson, Georgia. I turned on Jefferson County, which is about an hour and a half south of Atlanta. So this lady calls, she's like, hey, got your information here, and here's the address. I'm thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I'm at the computer Googling online. I'm thinking, oh no. I turned on the city instead of the county. So I've got a lead 3 hours away that it is in the hood. I'm like, I don't even understand this market. Looking on the tax assessor's website, she wants $110,000 for it. Tax assessor says it's worth 70 grand. So in my mind, something triggered and said, offer $7,000.
That's smart.
So I'm like, listen, lady.
You lowered your risk.
I lowered my risk. I said, listen, lady, we are absolutely covered up right now. You're about 3 hours away. I can do $7,000 on it. If you can live with that, let me know. And we went back and forth for a minute. She said, well, send me the contract. Okay.
Bingo. You're in the game.
So that was one where I don't mind. I'll leave my backyard for something like that. Did a wholesale deal on that and literally listed it, I think, for 20 grand. Some dude out in New York bought it sight unseen. I made a couple bucks and got out of it. But that can't be the model, right? At least for us.
Yeah. The quicker you uncheck that box, the quicker you quit burning money out there and quit getting calls in the wrong places.
Right.
But you know, there are times in people's careers where like things happen and it really stands out to them. And something that stands out to me there is you made a really astute decision. People think risk means a lot of different things. For me, risk can be lack of information, lack of experience. A lot of times it means how much money do I have in the deal? So like you'll hear a lot of bigger commercial real estate guys say, we've been in the deal for 4 years. We refinanced it, got all the investors' money out. We've de-risked the deal. What they mean is we have no more money in this deal and it's not a recourse loan.
Yeah.
So like, I don't care we want to make profit, but if something goes wrong, everyone's got their money back. Our risk is zero. Even if we foreclose and lose the property, we lose nothing at this point.
Sure.
You've de-risked it. So when you made that offer to that person, I want people to understand that because when they look at a deal with all this hair, they say, that's really risky. I'm like, I don't know. Are they going to give you their interest for $1? Well, I'll take 60 of those.
Right.
Actually, I'll take 200. Here's 200 bucks out of my wallet. Like, that's not risky.
Right.
If it falls apart and you lose it, who really cares?
Yeah.
That's a very smart way to explain, like, the de-risking of something.
Yeah. And I just, some people absolutely love, this is an art to what we do, right?
Yeah.
Having to assemble a deal and understand interpersonal skills. And, we kind of become like counselors and mentors. And, when people call us.
Dude, talk about that for a minute. Because people get in this business, they want to get some money and they're excited. They think it's about property. You just touched on a more important part than the real estate.
Well, absolutely. If you're in this business to make money, you're going to struggle. If you come in this business and say, I'm going to figure out ways to solve problems for people, I'm going to go love people, I'm going to solve problems for them that they're just not in a position to solve themselves, then you're going to make a lot of money. Because at the end of the day, the way, we call it a buy appointment. What that looks like, you're sitting on someone's couch in their house that's distressed and you're hearing about death or divorce or disease or displacement. They've got to leave the house. They're dealing like they're not excited that you're there. They didn't want to have to call you, So that's a whole side of the business that people don't talk about. You roll up to someone's house. If you think you're there going to make a pile of money, dude, you got to go in there and be like a counselor. You see them through something, and then they're going to sign a contract with you, Like we just closed on a house last week where small fire in the house, but a lot of smoke damage in the property. Well, our seller's grandson died in the house.
Oh, gosh.
So this is a very emotional situation.
Did y'all meet him at the property?
So not at first. So, this dude calls and gives me just a brief summary of his grandson lived there. There was a fire. Still didn't know that this guy passed. He was 30 when he passed away. Still didn't know this guy passed away in the property. This guy wants $110,000 for the property. In my mind, I know the market. This is a market that we're heavily involved in. I'm buying these houses all day for $20,000 to $40,000. So in my mind, I'm like, I know I got to be around 30 without ever seeing the house. So I go ahead and let this guy know. Doing a lot of business in that market, typically buying properties for $20,000 to $40,000. But I love to take a look at the property and understand what makes it kind of different here. Go see the property, call him back. Hey man, I am going to be at about $30,000. If that's something you can live with, let me know. So he goes, so I'm at 30. He's at 110. He said, well, I've got 80 in it. Can you help me recoup just what I've got in the deal? I was like, how about I come out to your house? So he didn't live at the property, obviously. I said, let me come out to your house. Let's just chat about it. I want to put a face with a name. So, we always say in our business, if you get face-to-face, you can shave $50,000 off. By just showing up, you can get it. Because so many people try to do this thing 100% remote. If you show up, you can make a big impact. So right now, I'm at 30, 110 to 80. I show up, hanging out with a guy. He's a big classic car guy, looking at some of his classic cars and stuff. And at some point, kind of in passing, he mentions, I think I could live with 60 on the house. And I didn't even address it.
Heard it.
Didn't even bring it up, though. We're going back and forth. And he's telling me about his grandson that passed away in the house. So I'm kind of like sitting in that moment with him. And I was like, Ron, I think what I want to do on this house, I'm going to buy the house. I'm going to rehab the house like new again. And then I'm going to hold it for 30 years like you did. I'm going to hold it till I'm an old man. And it's going to help a lot of families in our community. A lot of families are going to come through those doors, and it's going to be a big impact. But I got to be at 30. And then I didn't even let him talk. We just kind of went back to talking about cars again, and we're just hanging out for another 30 minutes or so. And I'm like, Ron, well, I got to get out of here, man. I've got another appointment to get to. How do you feel about this? And he's like, can you do 32? I said, I can come up with a couple grand more for you. And we signed a contract. But what I had to do as a human, I almost had to take off my business hat and just go be a human being.
Yeah.
I had to sit with that guy in the fact that his grandson died in the house. And I had to let him know, what am I going to do with this house for the next 30 years? Welcome him back into it after we rehab it. So there was a whole emotional side to that deal that had to be perfected in order for it to become a deal, you know?
You know, you hear people say they do business with those who they like, know, and trust. That guy didn't know you.
Didn't know me.
So you got there and you had to get him to know you. You were able to get him to like you, like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Just listen. They'll
My
help you
favorite
like
book,
them.
man.
Yeah, it's clear. And then over time, the trust happens and people think it could take years to build trust. Not in a transactional situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can spend 30 minutes or an hour with you and say, okay, I hear how he talks. I can understand his ideology through his communication. As long as he's not just like a complete fraudster and like completely misrepresenting everything, I think I can understand a person in a reasonably short amount of time, which is also amount of time for a person to be able to trust you too.
Mm-hmm.
So you did all that, made him like, know, and trust you.
Yeah.
And that's how you went from 110,000 all the way down to 32,000.
Yep.
I tell people often, this isn't we're in the people business and we trade in real estate.
There you go. Absolutely. It is 100% a people business. And once you embrace that, that's when things become a lot easier. Even down to, staff. They're human beings, man. You know what I mean? And they got problems.
Yeah.
And they got things. And if you just go love them and see them through life and take good care of them and treat them like a person, not a machine, all of a sudden you wake up and your business is running smoother too.
Yeah, you're right.
So
you're absolutely right.
We'll get the tissues if we need to.
Well, these are the parts of the business that people forget because everybody says, I'm in a situation where I want to do better. How do I do that? I want to earn more money. Mm-hmm. How do I earn more money? Real estate. Like they're thinking about all these particular high points, but the other parts that are also high points, but they're not quite as visible are these parts of it.
Yeah.
So one part that we didn't talk about early on, and now we should get to it is, how'd you wind up in real estate?
That's a good question. So in June of 2018, my first daughter was born. So my wife's a nurse, so she's nursing full time. Daughter's born. She goes back to work full time.
What was your profession at the time?
So I was helping to run an industrial adhesives business. So I was in business management.
So nurse, manager, good incomes.
Yeah, great income. Life was going good. My wife, we have our first daughter, and then my wife goes back to work full time. At some point, she came to me within a couple months, and she said, "Man, I think I need to be at home."
Damn right.
Completely agree. I mean, literally, God created my wife to be an awesome mom. There's no one better fit to be home with that little girl. Cool. So she stays home. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, I just lost $70,000 a year. I'd like to make that up somehow. Right around that time, I'm in the throes of like the first 3 months of becoming a dad. Which is just like, you're just getting punched in the face, So I've got a buddy, Jacob.
Yeah.
He's living in St. Pete at that time. So he's down in Florida, got a nice house on the water and stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to go see Jacob for a couple days. So I go down there and hang out with him. And we're late 20s. We go out and have a good time to the wee hours of the morning. We wake up the next morning. He's like, dude, I've got to go run on a buy appointment. I got to go look at this house. Come with me. So we had a wild night the night before. We roll up to this dilapidated mobile home. You know, this guy literally rolls out in a wheelchair.
And you're a corporate manager at this time, so you're going here like, what in the world am I in?
I'm like, what is going on here? Jacob's like, just follow my lead.
Bear with me.
Yeah, he's like, just follow my lead on this. So we roll up, taking a look at the house. It's distressed. This poor guy's in a wheelchair. He's an amputee. We get back we're sitting in the truck, running comps on the house. Went and saw the house. Come back to the truck to run comps on it, and we're about to go make an offer. We step out, we go make a $25,000 offer on this house. I still don't know what the house is worth. The guy's all in. Literally, Jacob signs the contract on the guy's leg, what's remaining of it.
On his stub.
On his stub. And so we're leaving. I'm like, dude, what's that house worth? He's like, probably $125 after a $10,000 rehab.
You're like, that's my whole year's salary.
I'm like, wait a minute. You're going to be in this at $35,000. You're going to go make a pile of money on this. And he's like, Matt, these are everywhere. And that was kind of the end of that conversation. You know, we sort of went about the day and we had a fun weekend together. And towards the end of the trip, I brought that back up to him. I'm like, dude, I'm just mind blown by what's going on with real estate here.
And he's just laughing. He's like,
this is what I do. It's fun. He's got a corporate job. He's selling like educational software with McGraw-Hill at that time. But this is kind of his side hustle that he's doing pretty well at. He said, man, if you ever want to do this in North Georgia, let me know. Cool. Didn't think much about it. Go home. But that comment kind of stuck in my head. So what's going on in my life? My wife's stepping away from her nursing role. We're losing about $70,000. We're fine. We don't need the money. But I'm thinking in my mind, I'd like to make that up.
A little extra never hurts.
Never hurts. So I called Jacob. I'm like, this is the call to tell you I'm in. Let's do this in North Georgia, man.
So y'all didn't really have much conversation. You just called him and like, all right, let's do it.
But basically,
dive in.
And we've been, at this point, we've been friends since we're 5 years old. So we've been the best of friends for our whole lives, you know. So that was late 2018 when we got rolling together. And it's literally.
Wait. You got rolling together. But now, how long did you do this before you left the job? How did you leave the job? What was that situation like?
Yeah,
because that's a big turning point in a employee turn entrepreneur turn business owner's life.
Sure. Yeah, that's been a wild journey, kind of seeing all that through. So at this point, I'm in real estate as well, kind of going into early 2019, and I do real estate and the corporate role together for like 4 years.
And is that okay? So that's when you started the franchise, by the end of the franchise.
Yep.
Okay, so nights and weekends.
Nights and weekends, and you know, I'm doing well in the corporate role, and got a lot of responsibility there, and growth is happening every year, and that's wonderful. But I just cannot shake this real estate passion. And by this time, we're doing 6-10 deals a year, and I'm kind of like just halfway focusing on it, and so is Jacob.
And how does that income compare to your job?
Well, so you start setting all these goals in your head. Like at some point I realized like I'm going to have to step away from corporate. So you set these goals in your head and I'm like, all right, well, as soon as I can make more in real estate in 1 year than I do in my corporate role, I'll step away.
Yeah, that's usually like the bar.
And then that happens and I'm like, well, then you start setting some savings goals. Well, once I got 100,000 or 250,000 in the bank, then I'll step away. And you hit all these milestones and at some point I realized I'm just scared. Scared to step away. So I hired a life coach to kind of see me through this. I'm like, well, let me go understand psychologically what's going on with me here. And basically, this dude brought me back to like early childhood. He's like, let's talk about trauma and why you are the way you are. And which sounds kind of corny, but it was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Well, I had all these fears. Ultimately, my fear was I'm going to be broke. I won't be able to support my family. And they're going to leave me and my life is over. Right, like that's what happens psychologically if you really dig into your brain. And
it's not just you. That happens to a lot of people when they talk about a major life event or a major risk of failure or a major something. Those are the core things to you, and you're afraid you're going to lose them, and that's how people live their life.
Absolutely.
I've felt the same feelings in other situations. And when you said it, I'm like, yep.
Yeah, and so once you realize, like, okay, these are the feelings I'm having, and they're not real, okay, I can probably get past that then, because the worst thing that can happen, I leave the corporate job, the real estate business doesn't work out, I can go get another job.
Dude, you said so many things I want to like lose it on. That's exactly what I tell you. They say, well, what if I leave this job and the business doesn't work? I'm like, you fucking moron. You are good at that job. They'll hire you or someone else in a month.
Absolutely.
Your risk isn't being on the street once you understand it. Your risk is not making that business work and changing your life. That job is always going to be there, or one just like it, or maybe not one quite as good. But your risk isn't under a bridge, dude. Your risk is going back and getting the other job.
Right, absolutely. And, and then I talked to my wife about this, and she's like, Matt, you're going to do great.
She had more confidence.
Absolutely. So that was kind of a cool thing to realize that, okay, I can probably survive.
The moment you know she believes in you, you're like, let's swing for the fences. Fuck it.
Absolutely. So at this point, I've already got a resignation letter written. It's been written for a couple months.
Oh, dude.
And literally, me and the family, at this point, I've got 2 kids now. I got 2 little girls. And
You know what causes those, right?
I do.
Careful.
Yeah, and we actually just had a third.
Well, they'll keep coming.
Right. So we're on vacation at Disney, and I'm up early. I've always been an early morning guy, so I'm up early checking some emails. And man, I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit or what, but I got this overwhelming feeling like, send your email.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. And Jacob always told me, by this time he's already left his corporate job, he always told me, he's like, don't rush it. You'll know when it's right. So I sent the email. And 10 days later, I was out of there, man.
What happened when they sent it? When you sent it, what'd they say?
That was...
Did you say I'm going to go out on my own?
I did. So I was extremely transparent about what I had been doing and what I was going to do moving forward,
What'd they say? Did they call you in and talk to you?
They did. So I had several conversations with so I was reporting to the owners of this business, which were wonderful, still are wonderful men. They were tremendous mentors for me, almost like father figures. So there was that emotional piece that kind of made it hard too.
I feel like you're letting them down.
I feel like I'm letting them down. I'm fearful for, is their business going to be okay?
Yeah.
Without me. You think that you're more important than you are, right?
True.
So anyway, their message to me was, Matt, we believe in you. You're going to do great. Best of luck. And it was kind of like, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out, there's always a seat for you here.
So you had that backup plan because you weren't a bad person. You didn't leave in a bad way. And you're honest and transparent. They're like, hey, he's not going to have to be a competitor, or he's not mad or fighting with us. He's going to go try and bet on himself. If it doesn't work, he's a good dude. We got a spot for him.
Sure.
So now your risk is freaking zero.
So it couldn't have gone any better, So then, the most interesting part of that whole process, so I leave the job. And then the first Monday morning, where I'm unemployed, right? I'm just running my own business at this point. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now.
Oh,
like, what do I do, man?
Something you to make your own schedule.
Well, and I've got this big sign on my wall that says entrepreneurship's not about money. It's about control over your time. Well, that day I had control over my time. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm used to being told what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of started, the beginning of about a year of me just saying, I'm just going to ease into this thing. Let's not make any massive changes to the real estate business. Let's just go knock down 20 deals, and because we know we can manage that pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So honestly, that was 2014. Was a bit of like a coast year. Let's not try anything too new. And then 2025, we really stepped on the gas.
Then you're like, all right, now's the time.
Right.
So you got your feet wet. You took a dive, you got your feet wet, you figured it out. I think that those are good lessons that people need to hear. You said a lot of really important things that are I would almost call them foundational. Like they're not rocket science, but they make a lot of sense. Yeah. And I meet so many guys that are like super smart and complicated, and they come up with all this shit, and I'm like, dude, like your IQ is probably double what mine is.
Right.
But I don't overcomplicate it, and I can find the answer and be reasonable and go at it and knock it out of the park. And you're over here like spinning out of control with a spreadsheet and staying up to 4 a.m. and all this. I'm like, what's going on? These are very good, reasonable, foundational decisions. I don't know how to say some of that much better.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think that's probably why you have a consistent, stable business that grows at a good pace.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable with it. You're probably not the kind of guy that steps out and does wild stuff that would threaten it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, we're relatively risk averse, I would say. It's important to us to let's just have a strong, healthy business. You know, like if you think it's scary, like I've got 3 kids to take care of, but really then you got all this staff. You got to kind of look after their kids too. You know, you got to make sure you got a healthy business that'll sustain all of the families that are impacted here.
So I asked you earlier, what's 2025 or 2026 look like? You told me a little bit about that. If you're to look out 10 years ahead, what do you think that looks like?
Oh man, Jacob and I were actually just talking about this. So, you know, we've become really good at what we're doing in the single family space. There's a bit of what feels like a limiting factor that the asset is only the size that it is, right? The asset's only going to be 250, 300 grand.
Got to grow in quantity.
Well, so you've got to grow in quantity, which seems to bring about a ton of complexities, right? So to us, a logical move is, well, let's go with larger assets, whether that's light industrial, multifamily, whatever it may be. So that's kind of what we're transitioning our learning to, if you will.
How old are you?
37.
I have an interesting perspective. So that's exactly what happened to me. I said, forget these rent houses, sell these, buy some warehouses, buy some office, do some, commercial.
Because cash flow is a myth on a portfolio, is what we're learning as well.
It is on commercial too. I mean, on triple net leases, it's easier because I have someone in the office that makes sure the taxes are paid. Like a gal checks to make sure the taxes have been paid, the insurance current, and the deposit hit that month. And the tenant does all that except make the deposit. Well, they make the deposit to us, but they pay all the other stuff. And you have to recycle it every 3 to 5 years because you get a new tenant. You call the broker. So it's a lot less management. But I met a guy recently. His name is Zach. Zach keeps out in Scottsdale.
Okay.
And he started out with single family. And while guys like me were saying, you know what, scratch that, let me get some commercial. That guy's stuck with single family. He's now been in it 20, a little over 20 years. Dude has 300 houses.
Really?
The number he quoted me was somewhere around $100 million in asset value, and he's at a little less than a 50% loan to value, debt to value. So when you do the math, 300 houses over 20 years, he bought 15 houses a year. Mm-hmm. You could do that in your sleep.
Absolutely.
So now what he got really good at is doing good with his tenants, good property management, and believe it or not, he says he has 4 people in an office that manage 300 properties.
Really?
Yeah. He still goes and meets people for buy appointments and does that kind of stuff because he loves it. He clearly doesn't need to anymore.
Yeah.
But that's something to consider. And I'm not trying to sway you either way. You need to see the decision I made. It was not what he did.
Right.
But I've also had a lot of stress and pressure and times where I'm like, is this right? Is this wrong? Mm-hmm. I'm betting on $500,000, $800,000 in cash on the down payment that's 25%. I'm about to take on a bunch of debt. In the early days, I had to personally guarantee the debt. I had to do all that. He didn't have to do that as much.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
Well, that is an interesting take. And we've got a lady on the team who's awesome, and she's kind of evolving into this property management role with us, which is cool, kind of paired with some software that we have. And that's starting to pull a lot of the day-to-day burden away from Jacob and I. And honestly, she's better at it than us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She probably can't go rock a buy appointment like me, but dude, I can't manage a property like she can. So it's kind of like, man, if we could continue to see her grow in that role, it almost becomes what you're talking about with that Zach guy, where you start to get this really healthy base, this team that can support a good-sized portfolio.
It's shocking how a small quality group could do it.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to running out of time, but I do have a question I like to ask people because perspectives change. The higher you climb up the mountain, the different vantage point you have, the different decisions you make. Mm-hmm. But let's go back 10 years. And what does the Matt today tell the 10-year ago Matt?
Oh, man. 10-year ago Matt, so 27, I'm kind of climbing the corporate ladder, just busting my butt. And what I realized around that time is I'm living someone else's dream, right? Like I'm growing a business for some other dude that had an awesome vision of hiring some quality guys and growing a business. And I was one of those quality guys, but I was working my butt off and starting to make good money, had high blood pressure, trying to manage this whole machine and figure out life. And I honestly was kind of lost. I was doing well on paper, right? You could look at me and money was being made. And
your parents would say you're doing well.
Parents were doing well. The marriage was doing well. Everything was good. But there was this like burning desire inside me for something else. I just couldn't define that something else yet. And 10 years later, I'm in it, man. I found it.
So you tell them, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Matt, this has been fun. If folks need to get a hold of you guys, if they're in North Georgia or some in Florida, or y'all not doing anything in Florida at all?
Not doing anything in Florida anymore.
Okay.
We're exclusively focused in North Georgia now.
If folks are wholesaling, sourcing deals, anything like that, want to find y'all, how do they get a hold of you?
You can find us on Facebook at We Buy Houses North Central Georgia, or our website is webuyhousesnorthga.com. You can find us easily on both of those avenues.
Easy. It's been fun. Thanks for your time,
I've
Matt.
enjoyed it very much, man. Thank you very much.
My commitment to you is to deliver the most interesting, messy, and profitable real estate deals on earth. And in exchange for that, I only ask that you subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend who can benefit.